Buongiorno, today we are gonna talk about money. If you don't know me, I'm Federico, I'm an Italian traveler, and I'm on the road since 1 year with my motorbike. The first part of my travel have been from Italy to Iraq and all the way back, and now from Italy to Nepal, where I'm right now in Kathmandu. One of the topics on which I received more questions about how does it cost to travel for a very long period of time. During my travel, I used to write down all the expenses I'm making. So now I'm going to show you an Excel file regarding this travel and also the previous one, because I decided not to come back by land but to ship the motorbike with a flight, because actually I don't want to ride back along the same route. So let's say in 1 week more or less the travel is over, so we will have also the possibility to compare two completely different travels. So before we start, I really want to emphasize that this is not how does it cost to travel, but how much Federico spent for his travel, because for sure there are kind of expenses that you can expect to have the same as mine, for example the cost of a visa, but all the other expenses are just related to the way I used to travel, so you can easily spend much more or even less depending on your travel style. The tool I use to write down all the expenses is Excel. I use the version provided by Google, so Google Sheets. It's very useful because it's cloud-based, so you can easily share the same file between different devices. So let's start with the season 1. So the first travel, Italy, Iraq and back. I started on the 15th of June. Here on the left you see all the date. These columns, I put the English name so it's easier for you. This is the place and the country I've been. This is the column where I write down the liters of fuel I put in the motorbike, the cost of the fuel, the cost of food. With food I mean both restaurants or groceries, so I put all together. Then accommodations, either it is hotel, hostels, apartment, whatever. Tires, such a long trip you change quite a lot of tires, so it's important to write down the cost. Services, scheduled service for my motorbike is every 6,000 kilometers. Extra service means if you break something, if you need to make some improvement, or you just need to change something that it's not supposed to be changed during a scheduled service. Transportations means if you have to take a flight to ship your motorbike in a way or another, take a ferry, stuff like that. Tolls. You know, my channel is called Zero Highways, so I'm not used to ride on highways, so I generally don't pay for a road, but sometimes, especially in some alpine pass or in India, in Nepal, you have to pay to pass through some pass, through some tunnel. This is visa, health insurance, because as soon as you get outside Europe, if you're European, or your country if you're not European, it's really important to have a good health insurance that covers you in every circumstances, especially riding a motorbike. Not all the insurance company provide you a coverage if you're riding a motorbike. Some of them only if you're riding on the road, but not if you're going off-road, so you have to be pretty careful from that point of view. The bike insurance and extras. Extras is, what can I say? It's basically something that it's not strictly related with the travel, or maybe that is just not fitting in any of these groups of expenses, and you don't want to create just another column for some random expenses. This is the total for every day, and then the total of the whole trip. The kilometers, I used to write down the kilometers I make every time I get out. And also this is the link provided by Google Maps, which show you which is the route you made that day. This is really interesting because, so you see, Here you have the kilometers, the time you rode, all the route you made. This is a graph I like to have. I'm an engineer, so I love numbers and graphs. Just to have a quick look of where your money is going more. For example, here you can see that the most expensive part of the travel is basically to sleep. And this is important because it means that you like or want to camp more than I used to do. Means that you can save a lot of money. Food is also quite high expense, but let's not forget that this travel from Italy to Iraq, basically I was passing through all the Alps, Italian side, but also Austrian, French and Switzerland side. And then all along the Balkans regions, and especially in Europe, accommodations and food is crazily expensive. So we will see the big difference that there are from the previous trip to this trip. Here we can see some calculation. For example, this is the average of mileage I get from fuel. It's 26 kilometers per liter. This is the total number of the day I've been traveling. My cost, so what is the total amount of cost that is related only to me as a person, and this is the total amount of cost that is related only to the motorbike. As you can see, my cost is almost double than the motorbike, a bit less than double, and in average we are talking about 31 euros per day for myself and 20 euros per day for the motorbike. Here there is everything: fuel, services, tires, everything. The total cost per day is on average 51 euros, and the total cost of the whole trip is almost 10,000 euros, which it's not exactly low, but it's not even very high. If you think you're talking about 1,500 euros per month. It can be cheaper, but it can be even much more expensive. I think about how does it cost just 1 or 2 weeks holidays in August, for example. Easily double. Now let's give a look to the second travel from Italy to Nepal. Here some numbers need to be a little bit interpreted because I decided to put, for example, the services I made when I came back to Italy. Probably would have been more correct to split half in the first travel and half in the second one, but okay, doesn't matter. But at the same time, I still didn't put the insurance of the motorbike because I still have to pay the second year. So more or less the two things compensate each other. Here I left Italy the 9th of March, which was 6 months yesterday, and I put in total 1,551 liters of fuel. Let's see how much it was the previous one. Oh, more or less the same. 1,155 and now 1,051. More or less the same. In total I spent 1,100 euros of fuel compared to 1,476 last travel, more expensive. That depends a lot on the kind of countries you are crossing, because for example in Iran the cost of a liter of fuel is around 10 cents of euros. Basically it's free. I spent 1,100 euros in food, and you see 2,100 euros the previous travel. That's another huge difference, because in many countries like Turkey, Pakistan, India, Nepal, food is so cheap, much cheaper than Europe. Sometimes it's cheaper to go to a restaurant than just go to the grocery. Come on, buy your food and cook it by yourself. Then I spent 2,500 euros to sleep. Again, more or less the same. But think about, in the previous trip I was camping around 3 months out of 6, so half of the trip I was camping. In this trip I basically camped 4 or 5 times in total. The rest of the time, a few times hostels, most of the times apartment or hotels. For example, the apartment I'm right now here in Kathmandu in Nepal, it cost me around 15 euros per day, and it's really nice. Large living room, bathroom, 2 huge rooms, a kitchen here. Many countries so cheap to sleep that from my point of view there is no point to stress out yourself camping every day. Also because I need electricity for the PC for editing videos. I like camping, but if I don't have a proper camping site, just while camping I can do it just a few times per month. Then I spent 447 euros for the tires, the same last trip. Then services 455 against 515, but more or less the same. Extra service it's 1,700, and the previous one was 600, but I said that it's because fix some problem of the motorbike coming from the previous trip, and to make some improvement for the next one. So cost to share, it's more or less the same. Transportation, okay, we should talk a little bit about this, because actually this total here is ferry boat from Italy to Greece. The same I had to pay for the previous trip, but also my flight coming back from here to Europe. I still didn't put the cost of the shipping of the motorbike, and it will cost me a kidney. It will be something around 2,500 euros. I don't think it's a good idea to put it here, because it will change completely the average, so it will make a mess. So let's compare right now 600 euros against 200, because last time I just took 2 ferry boats, one from Italy to Greece and one to Greece to Italy. Then we have tolls, 15 euros this trip and 79 the previous one, more or less the same. Then we have this trip, I spent 535 euros of visas. In the previous one, 70. The previous one, the only visa needed was Iraq, which was 75 euros, $75. But now I needed Iranian visa, Pakistani visa, Indian visa, and Nepal visa, which are roughly 100, 120 euros each. Then health insurance, 890 euros for 1 year, full coverage. Last trip was 241, because 2/3 of the trip were in Europe, basically, or at least in the area where I was covered by my personal insurance. And now I had to pay for the whole year. I didn't know that I was coming back after just 6 months, but still, most of the insurance you cannot extend when you are already abroad, so it's better to spend some money more, and that took 12 months. So then we have extras, which are 470 euros. Last time were 831, but in this case there are 150 euros for the carnet de passage, which I didn't have to have last trip, so I was a little bit better with the extras. So in total we have 10,000 euros, the same basically of the previous travel, 26,000 kilometers against 30,000 kilometers, and an average mileage of 25 kilometers per liter. I reached even 23, 24 in the middle of the trip, because the quality of fuel in Iran is so low that basically, even if it's cheap, so it's not an actual problem, but it takes more fuel to ride the same kind of road. 186 days against 191. In this case, my cost is 5,600 euros compared to 5,900, let's say 6,000 euros the previous trip, and the motorbike 4,300 against 3,700. But again, let's not forget about this, that this cost should be actually shared between the first and the second. So more or less we have the same situation. Here the graph related to this second trip, we see that fuel and food are more or less the same, around 1,000 euro, a little bit more. And actually here was completely different, the story. The same amount of days, but more cost about fuel, because in Europe it costs much more, and double price, double cost for food. And consider that I was camping, so I was cooking by myself half of the trip. But still, also going to the grocery is much more expensive in Europe. Then we have, for sleeping, it's around 2,500 euros, and still the same here in the previous trip, but let's not forget that I was camping a lot here. So as you can see, traveling is not cheap. It can be even cheaper than that. But if you compare a travel to a holiday, it's nothing. You can easily spend 4,000 or 5,000 euros per month if you think about being in a holiday constantly. 1,500 euros included everything, not just myself, but the motorbike, fuel, tires, and every insurance, whatever. If you think it's almost nothing, it's absolutely acceptable. And I know a lot of people which are just traveling much cheaper. You can camp every day, you can cook by yourself every time. For sure there are some expenses you cannot avoid, visas for example, fuel, but for the rest you can easily low down your expenses. So just to give you an idea, if you buy a motorbike which is 25,000 euros, for sure you have the best motorbike in the world, but you can also buy a motorbike 6, 8, 10,000 euros. The difference from 10,000 euros at 25 is 15,000 euros. Means that I can travel 10 months with 15,000 euros. So just saving money on the motorbike, basically I could have done this trip for free, both more or less. So you know, money, it's always a matter of perspective. Even if they are numbers, even if they are concrete stuff. Sometimes we spend, I don't want to say waste, but we spend money for things that maybe we can try to spend less and use that money to do something that really gives you something, really makes your life better, makes your mood better, makes you grow, makes you learn a lot of things about the world, about people, opens your mind. So sometimes if you think that you don't have enough money to travel, to do what you like to do, you should maybe open an Excel file, write down some numbers and try to understand if you can do something to save money from some point of view and use that money for doing what you like in your life. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, that you got some interesting information. If you did, please let me know with a comment or a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I see you, I'm watching you.